Hello everybody, we're going to go ahead and review a Java tutorial of the Hello World program. A couple things we have on the agenda today is download and installation of the Netbeans Integrated Development Environment or IDE, the download and installation of the Java Development Kit or JDK. I am using JDK 11, but there will be newer versions of this. Um, we're going to review the creation of a Java project within NetBeans, and we're also going to write some source code, and we're going to explain a couple different things about syntax, packages, classes, and methods. A couple tips I'm going to leave you with today is the usage of camel case styling, using descriptive names when you're programming, and using comments. These are all very important for you to be able to read and understand and be able to read your own code or read someone else's code. So we're going to go ahead and leave that screen there, and we're going to go ahead and get started on being able to download and install NetBeans. So in this case, what you're going to be able to see, if you Google for NetBeans download, you're going to receive some Google feedback that takes you directly to the website where you'll be able to download and install the NetBeans software. In this case, the latest software is Apache NetBeans 12, with the latest version being 12.1. Go ahead and just click this green button to download and install it. I already have this downloaded and installed on my computer, so I'm not going to go through that feature. Um, Now, if we're going to go ahead and download and install the JDK, which is also very important, you're going to Google for the Java Development Kit. You're going to receive a couple different links for any other versions, such as JDK 8, but we're going to click on this link that takes us directly to the Java SE downloads. The latest one that Oracle has out is JDK 15. And what we're going to want to be able to do is click on JDK download. But if you need any assistance, there is some documentation or installation instructions on how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the link. Now, with that being said, if you scroll down, you'll be able to find a couple different packages that you can download depending on your operating system. If it's Windows, Mac OS, or any kind of Linux packages, you can go ahead and download and install them on your computer. Once you have done so, we're going to go ahead and open up the NetBeans software. And once you open up the NetBeans software, you're going to be greeted with a start page. You can kind of ignore that at the moment. Now, what we want to be able to do now is create a Java project. So what that looks like is if you go ahead and click on File and the New Project, that's how we'll start one. If you're using Mac OS, it's the shortcut Shift Command and the letter N. Or if you find this yellow square with the green plus sign logo, you'll be able to start a new project and create one. Now this is important here. You want to make sure you're creating a Java application. In this case, it's falling under the Java with Maven category. If you have any other older versions of NetBeans, you may just see a category called Java, but just make sure ultimately you are creating a Java project or Java application project. You want to go ahead and click Next. Now what we're going to do is name the project. You can name this literally whatever you want. You just have to make sure that it doesn't end in a period. You don't start it with anything funky, but you also want to make sure that you're using camel case styling. So what this looks like is if I type up Java YouTube tutorials, you're going to go ahead and see that the J in Java, the Y in U, and the T in tube, and the T in tutorials are all capitalized. And it's because you cannot have any white space within your project name. As you can see, it's going to go ahead and throw you an error. So sometimes in programming, you can't use white space. So in this case, just make sure you use camel case styling so you can kind of read the name easily. Next, what you'll be able to do is click finish, or if you want to change your group name from com.tutorials to com whatever you'd like, you can do so. It's really just a package structure here. So I'm going to go ahead and click finish to create one. You're going to go ahead and see that now we have a new project in your project directory here. And what we're going to go ahead and do is open up the source packages folder. You're going to see that we have a package here called com.whatever you named the group ID, and then the name of the project. In this case, it's Java YouTube Tutorials. I'm going to right click, click New, and click on Java class, because what we're going to want to do now is create a new Java class. I'm going to go ahead and name this one main, and we're going to go ahead and click finish. Now you're going to see that the IDE actually created a couple different things here. Provided a package location and a class called main. That's literally what we just created. Now what we're going to want to be able to do is, in order for us to execute any kind of code, we need to be able to have something known as a main method. So sometimes if you're using different IDEs, this will be automatically created for you, but we're going to go ahead and create it ourselves. So in order to do so, we need to be able to type up public static void main, and in parentheses you need to add string brackets args, and then two curly braces. So just like that, we created a method. And there's a couple different things here that you need to know. There are some keywords that you are not able to use in the IDE or in Java in general. Some of them is public, class, you can see here, static, void, private. You'll see a couple different ones as you start to use it a little bit more. But I just wanted to call that out, and you'll be able to see that the IDE actually highlights some of the keywords in blue. Now, there are three different ways that we can do this. I'm going to go ahead and put some comments. The comments in Java is a backslash, and what we're going to be able to do is type up version 1, hit enter a couple times to move to another line, version 2, and version 3 that I want to be able to show you. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you what version 1 is. So what you need to be able to type up is system.out.println, and then in parentheses, and you want to make sure that any kind of line that you create or statement you create in Java ends in a semicolon. That's very important. In this case, what this is going to do, the system.out.println command is going to do, is we're going to basically print something to receive any kind of output. So a test that I'm going to do here is type up in quotations, hello world. And now the expectation when we run this code is we're going to receive hello world in our input here. So let's go ahead and test that out and run our file. We want to go ahead and right click, and I guess you can't run it from here just yet. We need to save the file. All right, after you save it, you can go ahead and right click and click run file, or you can hit the play button up top. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. And just like that, we received hello world in our output. So you have essentially just completed the hello world program, but I'm going to show you some refactoring and some different ways on how you can get this done. Okay, so a couple of things that you need to know regarding syntax. Classes always start with a capital letter. You cannot have any numbers, any symbols in there at all. Now, when it comes to writing out specific lines of code, specific objects start with a capital letter. In this case, system does. So you want to make sure that you become well versed on what some of these objects are, so you can write them correctly, because there's specific syntax you need to follow. Now we're going to go ahead and do and proceed with version 2, which is going to make the use of variables. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and type up string variable, right? And we're going to enter equals hello world. All right, so a couple things that's going on here. We're going to go ahead and create a variable. You can call this whatever you want. I'm calling it variable for this example, but you can really type up anything you want, and you're creating a variable. You just have to make sure that you remember the name, because you'll have to use it elsewhere. In this case, the variable is of the type string. So string is basically anything within a quotation mark, which could be text, it could be whatever you want. Following back to syntax, if I change this to int, which would be for integers, you're going to see that we're going to receive an error, and it's asking me to change the type of variable to string. And we're going to go ahead and click that because that is the correct way to create a variable. And the reason that it threw that error is because these quotation marks make up a string, not an integer. So if I were to create another variable, I'm going to call it var2 equals 2, you're going to see we're not going to receive an error because this is indeed a variable. There are a couple different ones, such as double or boolean for true and false variables, but we're going to go ahead and proceed. So for this example, what we could do now is type up system.out.println, and what we want to be able to do is type up variable. Well, now what we're also going to do is also change the variable string to something we can recognize. So I'm going to say, hello, this is variable for hello world. And we're going to go ahead and save and run the file. So once we run the file, it's going to build the code and compile it. Now you're going to see in our output, we're going to receive statement to print hello world here, and the system and the output for hello, this is a variable from hello world. And the reason that this is working is the system.out.print or print line command is essentially just allowing you to provide some output. In this case, we have a string directly inside of the command for version 1, and then we also have the variable name that we've referenced in version 2. And then I'm also going to show you another way how this can be completed. And once again, you can change anything you want for the variable to be, including the name and its content. You just need to understand that once you reference it, it's going to be what you set it as. Now for version 3, we're going to go ahead and introduce something called the scanner. And we're going to go ahead and call this input. And we're going to type up equals new scanner with a semicolon at the end, of course, and system.in. Now you're going to see we received a couple red squigglies. That means that there is an issue here. And the issue is we need to be able to import the java.util.scanner class so we can be able to access that object. So essentially what we did is we created an object, a scanner object with the name variable. So anytime we reference the variable input, we'll be able to receive some kind of input from the user. In this case, this will be you. We're going to go ahead and create a variable once again. So I'm going to call this version 3 or v3. And what you're able to do at this point is actually, this can be written out in two ways. You can either initialize the variable here and declare it underneath, such as v3 equals input dot next line, which is going to allow you to receive some kind of input, or you can actually put it all together on one line. It really doesn't matter the way you do it. I like this way better because there's less lines to read. Now we're going to use the same tactic that we use in version 2 to be able to output that information. And it's called v3. Let's go ahead and save the file and run it. Now what you're going to be able to see is we have our hello world and hello, this is a variable for hello world output. Now what it's doing, it's waiting for us to type something. So I'm going to type up, I am typing this, and hit enter or return. And you're going to see that it's going to assign whatever input you are using that you typed up for line 27. And what it's going to do is now enter that string that you entered for the variable v3, and it's going to print it out. Now, a couple things here to notice. There's a couple different ways you can receive errors here, so you want to make sure you're looking very carefully. Is if I go ahead and, let's say if I want to get rid of this, version 2 and version 1, and if I run the file and type up an integer, right, I should receive an error here. Actually, no. And the reason I did not receive an error is because it's encapsulating the input you are typing up as a string. So that is the difference between what we did in version 1 and in version 3. And that is your tutorial for the Hello World. A couple different things you want to be able to understand is look at packages as folders and look at classes as basically a folder encapsulating everything you want to be able to do. In this case, in the main class, we have the main method, and you can create other methods, but we're going to go ahead and introduce that in a later video.